Gordon is big and blue, and the fastest engine on all of Sodor. He loves pulling the express. Gordon thinks it makes him the most important engine on the island. One day, Gordon was pulling the express out of Brendam docks, but Diesel was on the same line. Sniffed Gordon. Diesel had to back off. This made him cross. He sneered. Scoffed Gordon, and he chuffed proudly out of the docks. Gordon was speeding through the beautiful countryside. He was having a wonderful day. But then he heard a horrible squeaking noise. Gordon was upset. Squeaking could only mean one thing. Something was wrong. He thought. Gordon squeaked sadly up the hill. The hill was steep, and Gordon had to slow down. The slower he went, the quieter the squeak became. Gordon was delighted, and he chuffed slowly back to Tidmouth Sheds. That evening, Sir Topham Hatt came to see Gordon. He said. The next morning, Gordon waited for everyone to go. Then he puffed slowly away so no one would hear his squeak. Once out of the sheds, he started to pick up speed. His pistons pumped and his wheels spun, and he began to squeak again. Said Gordon. Then he heard something even worse. It was a rattle. He cried. So Gordon slowed down. Gordon crawled slowly into the station to collect the children. Gordon's boiler sank. If he went slowly, the children would miss their boat trip. But if he went quickly, Sir Topham Hatt would hear his squeak and his rattle. He'd know Gordon was wearing out and send him to the scrapyard. With the children safely on board, Gordon pulled slowly out of the station. Gordon chuffed slowly through the countryside. He thought things were going well. But Sir Topham Hatt was very cross. He spoke sternly to Gordon. He boomed. Said Gordon sadly. Added Sir Topham Hatt. This made Gordon feel proud. He said. His wheels turned faster. His pistons pumped harder. He puffed. Soon he began to squeak and rattle too. And then he heard another noise. A knocking noise. But Gordon didn't care. If this was his last trip, he was going to go as fast as he possibly could. Gordon squeaked and rattled and knocked all the way to Brendam docks. Salty and Henry were surprised. They had never heard an engine make such awful noises. Sneered Diesel. But Gordon didn't care about Diesel. He had made good time, and the children would catch their boat. He cried proudly. Shouted the children happily. Said Sir Topham Hatt. Gasped Gordon. Said Sir Topham Hatt. Boomed Sir Topham Hatt. Gordon beamed with pride. Gordon spent the next day having his pistons polished, his axles greased, and his wheels well oiled. At last, he didn't make any more funny noises. Gordon was as good as new, and he felt even better.